My boyfriend cheated, so I rubbed all of his underwear in poison ivy. Thinks he has herpes. Hey Reddit, I've been lurking on this sub for a while now and I finally have a story I think is worth sharing. So, my now ex-boyfriend, let's call him Brad, cheated on me, and I got my revenge in a way that I think was both creative and satisfying. First, some background. Brad and I had been dating for about 2 years, and everything was going pretty great. Or so I thought. About a month ago, I found out he'd been cheating on me with some girl he met at the gym. How did I find out, you ask? Well, the dumbass left his phone at my place one night, and I saw a text come in from a number I didn't recognize. It was a little flirty, so I decided to do a little digging. The text revealed that not only had Brad been seeing this girl for several months, but he'd been lying to me about where he was and what he was doing. He even went as far as to fake working late just so he could sneak around behind my back. I was devastated, to say the least. But instead of confronting him right away, I decided to play it cool and come up with a plan to get some sweet revenge. Now, I'm not normally a vindictive person, but I was just so hurt and angry that I couldn't help myself. And I'm sure some of you might think I went too far, but honestly, after what he did to me, I don't really care. So here's what I did. Brad is super allergic to poison ivy. We found this out the hard way during a camping trip a while back, and it was a nightmare. He was covered in rashes, blisters, and was itching like crazy for weeks. So, one day when he was working late, I decided to take a little trip into the woods near my house where I knew there was an abundance of poison ivy. I put on gloves, grabbed a plastic bag, and collected a nice little bundle of the stuff. With the poison ivy secured, I went over to Brad's apartment. Luckily, I had a key, so I let myself in. I knew he wouldn't be home for a while, so I had plenty of time to execute my plan. I went straight for his underwear drawer and, using gloves of course, rubbed every single pair of his boxers with the poison ivy. I made sure to get every inch of fabric, especially the parts that would be in direct contact with his sensitive areas. Then, I put everything back as if nothing had happened and left. The next day, Brad texted me, saying he had a surprise for me and wanted me to come over. It took every ounce of my self-control not to tell him I already knew about his little side piece, but I managed to play along. When I got to his place, he revealed his surprise, a romantic, candlelit dinner. Yeah, I know, he was seriously laying it on thick. But I just grinned and bared it, knowing that karma was about to catch up with him in a big way. As we sat down to eat, I could hardly contain my excitement. Every time he shifted in his seat or adjusted his pants, I could barely suppress a smile. I could tell that the poison ivy was already starting to take effect. We made it through dinner, but just barely. By the end of the meal, Brad was visibly uncomfortable and was squirming more and more in his seat. It was taking everything I had not to burst out laughing. After dinner, we settled onto the couch to watch a movie. Brad was obviously in pain but trying his best to hide it. He kept shifting positions, and I could tell he was trying not to scratch himself. I couldn't help but feel a tiny bit bad for him, but then I remembered what he'd done to me, and that feeling quickly disappeared. About halfway through the movie, Brad excused himself and went to the bathroom. I could hear him in there, desperately trying to relieve the itchiness. He was in there for quite a while, and when he came back out, he looked miserable. I decided it was time to add to his misery and reveal what I knew. I turned to Brad and said, "So, I found out about your little side piece, and now it seems that you've contracted something. I hope you've been enjoying yourself because it looks like you're about to have a pretty rough time in life." The look of shock and horror on his face was priceless. He stammered out some lame excuses and apologies, but I wasn't having any of it. I told him it was over and that I hoped the itchiness was a constant reminder of what a scumbag he was. As I got up to leave, he blurted out, "But what about the rash? It's so bad. Do you think it's herpes or something?" I couldn't help but laugh. Probably so, Brad. Oh my God, he was in full-blown shock at this point, but I didn't care. I walked out the door, leaving him to deal with the consequences of his actions, and to have to be worried sick until he got to the doctor. Over the next few weeks, I heard from mutual friends that Brad was absolutely miserable. The rash had spread to other parts of his body, and he was itching like crazy. He even had to take some time off work to deal with it. I knew I should have felt guilty, but honestly, it felt like justice had been served. And the best part, the girl he cheated on me with apparently dumped him after she found out about what I did. She thought it was too weird and didn't want to be associated with him anymore. LOL. Now, I know some of you might think what I did was extreme, but I've got to say, it was incredibly freeing. I've since moved on and started dating someone new, who's an absolute sweetheart and treats me with the love and respect I deserve. And as for Brad, well, let's just say I think he'll think twice before cheating on someone in the future. So, that's my story. I hope you all enjoyed it and maybe even got a little bit of satisfaction from it. I know I certainly did. And hey, maybe it'll even inspire some of you to get creative with your own revenge plans. Just remember, sometimes karma needs a little help to make things right. Ouch, that was some painful revenge. Did she go too far or did Brad get what he deserved? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. When you subscribe, be sure to click the notification bell. Click here for more Tangled threads.